الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. In the name of Allah, the merciful, the graceful, the beneficent, peace and blessings be upon His Messenger Muhammad and His companions. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to Spotlight, a program that is renewed every week to bring you the latest of the latest in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Well, today we are tending to discover and discuss a historical aspect of Al-Medina, or near to Medina. It is the Badur. Currently it's sort of a town, a city, but on a small scale. Once in the past it has had a huge historical impact on the Islamic world. And today joining me, Dr. Yasser Al-Sharif, Mechanical Engineering Vice Dean in the Mechanical Engineering Department, Taiba University, and Dr. Raghid Ata from the Electrical Engineering, Taiba University as well. And joining me as well, the Dr. Ahmed Ghafir. Dr. Ahmed Ghafir is my co-host for this lovely evening. So welcome Dr. Yasser and welcome Dr. Raghid. Starting from a basic question to Dr. Yasser about the geographical information or the geographical aspects of Badr. What can you tell us about them?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. First of all, I would like to bring the point where before we get into the geographical and archaeological part of the area of Badr, we want to talk about prehistorical Badr, in the sense where Badr is one of the old locations in the Arabian Peninsula. Badr is basically exactly located southwest of the holy city of Medina Munawwara, which is basically a mark or a battle. A famous battle has been known since the Prophet of Allah resided in Medina Munawwara, and basically from that point we knew Badr. But before that, Badr was also known as a well of Badr. And there is a person by the name of Badr who has erected these wells. In particular, there is a well in the region in general. If you drive from Medina Munawwara all the way to the area of Badr, you find so many wells in the area and so many prehistorical farms and also homes. At the same time, we want to go back to the 600 BC, at the time when Badr was part of the region, as the Byzantine empires were in the north in Syria. And this is what was the crossover of, as the Quran, it says, رحلة الشتاء والصيف, the trip of the winter and the summer. And basically, through this winter and the summer trips, people used to pass through Badr area when they were going to Syria and coming back to Yemen. At the time, there were some famous empires, such as the Assyrians, the Nabateans. There were two queens of the Nabateans, Zabibu, and Queen also Shamsi. Basically, those were in the area of Tayma, where they're north part of Medina. Basically, when we talk about those two queens, they were fighting a war against the Assyrians, and they're so having a stronghold in this particular region. And generally, Queen Shamsi and Queen Zabibu, they had a war from the king of the Assyrians, the Tablith II. At the time when they were having these wars, this area was primarily occupied by the Arab tribes. So they could not even have stronghold of this area. So we talk about more of an Arab traditional town or village. The area of Badr is basically it's a valley where the rain comes around the mountains of the area surrounding Badr, and they all come and boil down to the bottom of the valley, the lowest part of the valley. And there we can find the water where people have agricultural use of the water. Again, we talk about Badr as also a junction between the industrial city today of Yanbu, which is also a known historical port in the Arabian Peninsula. And we talk about also the connection to Medina and the connection to Mecca as well. So you have like three different routes you can draw from here, and different directions that you can also utilize, whether you're using it in today's Badur, Yanbu', Medina location, or even historically people used to travel through the Red Sea with ports and with ships. And this was also the use of the location of Badur and the importance of that. I mean, one of the other resources in the city is also the crossroads. It was like more of a shopping center. So people were traveling from Yanbu' going to Medina. They stop here, have some water in the well of Badur, and they also do some shopping. So people have opened some shops. So that's how the community emerged there.
And this was prehistoric or pre-Islamic?
This is pre-Islamic at the point, but it became more important as of the Prophet ﷺ in the time when the Battle of Badr was waged in this area, just behind us, where I think you can imagine how 300 men from Medina came to this area.
Dr. Yasser, before we go into the area or the time of the era of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may the best of peace and blessings be with him, it really is, as our viewers would see, looking just around us here, you have what you were just describing. You have the agricultural aspect, you have the kind of the valley aspect, and as you can see right behind you there on the side, you have these sand dunes. It's a very, I don't know, it's a magic scene.
I don't think Dr. Raid wants to even to look behind him. He's just standing frozen on the seats.
Again, back to Dr. Raid. Tell us about the historic. Dr. Yasser spoke about the geographical importance of Badr pre-Islamic period. How about the historical? Are there any historical events before Islam or before the Battle of Badr?
As he said, this was a route for the caravans to pass by. It was like a marketplace, and it was a valley, so people who used to get rest during that long trip. And they used to trade, in the market, they used to get supply of water and food. So it was very well known even before the Prophet ﷺ moved to it to do the battle. So that was the situation of it, as Dr. Yasser was saying. But when does it become famous as the name as was accompany the Islamic history is when the Prophet ﷺ had his battle in it.
Okay, let me just cut in the way through there. See, when you come from Medina all the way to Badr, these are like, there are some towns and villages historically known in the area, like Al-Masajid, Al-Husseiniya. These are like towns, if you just pass by them, you can see the obvious agricultural bases in the background of the area.
That's what I was talking about earlier, that the geography around you, Dr. Yasser, is really unique in many ways.
Yes.
That's why we didn't want to go directly move from what we're talking about to the era of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, because just looking around you, it's really unique in many ways. How did that happen? That you have the desert, along with the oasis, along with the water,
I think it's
have
the
this market
volcanic
that's
nature.
called Badur.
Okay, see, before we get into the part when we talk about the agriculture, see, people do plant plants. They do have palm trees in the region. But when we talk about the original texture of the ground and the original plantation, we talk about trees as you move from the area of Badr all the way to the area of Medina. You find that there are some trees
Right there.
which were never been planted before. You can even
right
notice
behind
there.
you.
You can see
That's
some of
what
them
really
holding,
look, you can.
the director could show some of those trees. These are trees where you should just see the head of the tree, and the rest of that is basically the veins of the tree going inside the grounds all the way like 50, the roots exactly, 50 to 100 feet below the ground level. And we're talking about a good resource of water. So I mean, this is not just an agricultural area. There's also an area in the past was more like a garden. But I think this was like in the past, long time ago.
On a modern, kind of vibe, they're very famous for fish. How did that happen?
Well, you remind me of our lunch today, and I think so. We just had some fish earlier, and I think.
How did they move from an agricultural?
See,
I think it's Badr because the port of Rabin is so near to Badr, so they kind of have a connection between the
See, we live close to the sea. I think in Badr is enormously close to the Yanbu area, and I think that's how you get your fish from. And particularly this area was also famous for fish, in the sense that even people get to sell their fish to the people of Medina. I mean, it's closer to Medina, so the people of Medina, rather going to Imra to buy their fish, they would come to Badr.
It's mentioned Rabad as well. Rabad is famous port for the pilgrim from Egypt, for example, that he just passed by. So maybe that also get it more famous.
So as we see today, the weather is kind of nice. The wind is blowing, or the breeze is blowing at us. We are in a high position of Badr, which shows not only the place which the battle took place in, not only the town, but more aspects of this lovely place.
Actually, this is like an area where people used to celebrate. There are some famous fairs. Basically, Mahrajan, the word Mahrajan in Arabic means festival, exactly. I think the word festival explains what Badr was in the past. See, people come to this area celebrating the victory of Islam, as it's the first victory they went through. And I think this is where you have a festivity, in the sense that you have this within your soul, that people come from all over the world. They read the word Badr as you're coming from Imra, as if you're coming to visit Medina or you're coming to visit Mecca, and you see the word Badr, that brings out the celebration. Passing by, you just remember how victorious were the Muslims here. Before we get to the historical part.
Yeah, exactly. On that note, when you say it is festivities. Every time, to me personally, when I hear the word Badr, I feel and I taste, literally, a lot of history. And this is to you, Dr. Waleed. You were talking about the area, the geographical area. How did that play, or what role did that geographical area play in the whole genre of the Badrs in the plural sense, as you were explaining earlier?
Yeah, you mean for the battles?
Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, Badr was a place where caravans used to pass by and stop at. And when it's the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when he came just recently to Medina, people used to migrate from Mecca to Medina. And when they used to migrate from Mecca to Medina, the Kuffar of Quraysh, the unbeliever, they told them, you migrate, if you want to migrate, you migrate with your own clothes. You leave everything behind.
How's that?
Wealth, fortune,
fortune, money, even sometimes they ask them to leave each other, that you travel alone. Right? You want to leave alone. Leave everything behind. That's the people of Mecca telling...
That's the people of Mecca telling the Muslim people who want to migrate.
They also wanted to join Prophet Muhammad.
They don't want them to join, so they test them they test them money versus Islam, money versus religion. And obviously religion in one side will overweight all other aspects of life, so they leave their wealth behind. So at one time, and in the meantime, Meccan people, they want to invade Medina and they want to get revenge of the religion, and they want to get revenge of these Medinians who allowed the Prophet to be amongst them. So what they want, they want to get more money, so they get prepared for a war, a big war.
Are you talking about the reason behind the caravan of
yes,
Islam?
yes.
Before Dr. Ravid, before we move on to that point, which is a very interesting and intriguing point about the Battle of Badr and the events occurring before the battle, we would like to have a report or a survey, in a sense, which we asked some people about their opinion. What do they know about the Battle of Badr? So let's watch together.
To begin with, the Battle of Badr, it wasn't a battle at all at the beginning. The Muslims, they didn't intend to have a battle, they weren't ready to have a battle, but they were going to take a cargo for the mushriks with the leadership of Abu Sufyan. But Abu Sufyan, he summoned all the mushriks and he wanted to start the battle. So, they faced the reality there. After that, there was a very good, very beautiful incident that shows that how democratic was for Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He consulted with his companions for a better solution for this war, or this battle actually. So they suggested for him to take the well of Badr, so they can give the mushriks a hard time. And of course, Prophet Muhammad, he prayed for Allah to give him victory in this battle. It was a very, very big battle. It was the first battle that Muslims, only few Muslims, maybe 70 or 73, something like that, defeated 300 mushriks, including the heads of mushriks, the big leaders of mushriks. So it was a very big incident for Muslims. It was a very huge victory for all Muslims. All Muslims should know that and should know more about the Battle of Badr.
I don't know that much, but I know that it happens between Muslims and Mushrikeen. And it was at the 17th of Ramadan, the second year of Hijrah. And all I know, it was the first battle between Muslims and Mushrikeen, and they won it. And Muslims were in army with the number of about 317, and Mushrikeen with a lot, much more than Muslims, about 1,000 maybe, and they won it.
The Battle of Badr was the first battle in Islam. It was between the Muslims and the Mushrikeen. The Muslim was greatly outnumbered, and God, Allah sent the angels to help Muslims to win this battle. They saw a mark from Allah in the battle. They saw the Mushrikeen heads flying in the air, and the Muslims won that battle. That's all I know.
First of all, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I know that Al-Badr was between the Muslims and the Kuffar when Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, went to Medina. And it was in Ramadan, I think. The battle of Muslims, the Malaika or the angels joined the Muslims in the battle. But I don't know in which year.
The war of Badr is the first war in Islam against Mushrikeen, and Muslim was outnumbered and Mushrikeen was a large number, and the Muslim was almost lost in the war, but the God sent angels and helped the Muslims and get victorious in the war.
The Battle of Badr, about our history, Muslim history, it was Muslim beat Kuffar in one of the old and very hard war. There was few and with God help, they can beat Kuffar in one of the history war. No one can forget this war.
And welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers who are watching Spotlight for this week. We are talking about the Battle of Badr, and before the survey, which held a wide spectrum of opinions and information in it, we were asking Dr. Lagheed about to furnish for us some knowledge about the Battle of Badr or the events prior to the battle. Go ahead, Dr. Lagheed.
So, as I was saying before the report, that Badr was in the midway of the route from Mecca into Syria, and one of the leaders, which is Abu Sufyan, was having a caravan, not only owned by him, but it's owned by every single person in Mecca who can afford to pay or to invest his money, and that investment is going towards a big war against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
That's the intention.
That's the intention.
So the whole trade is...
It was a huge trade. It was 50,000 dinar. And the dinar at that time is just like 1,000 dirham. And the dirham, you can buy a lot with it. So you can imagine...
Even women got involved in collecting, even in contributing.
They were selling the jewelry and gold
and all that just to defeat Prophet Muhammad.
Actually, I think it was to build arms, wasn't it?
To build arms and to get weapon. But to build arm and get weapon for what reason?
Of course,
to
gain the pride back that they're...
Exactly, to get him back, or to kill this message from its birth. So that was the main mission for that caravan. So that caravan was going in the normal route from Mecca to Syria through Badr. But the Prophet ﷺ knew about it. So he went in about 150 people, and that was in Jumada Thani, which is about the 8th month of the second year.
Can I get into the truth on this part? And I know that there's some misconception to the point where the Prophet of Allah ﷺ was never a trespasser, so he basically never trespassed on this caravan. I mean, basically, it wasn't the idea of somebody who's like the knights that go and steal, the pirates, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
They were there to
That's the misconception.
There's a misconception, exactly. So basically, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, his people in Mecca, the Muslims who became Muslims, they left their homes. Even the people who they left behind, their homes, their families suffered. The Meccans at the time, they were so aggressive that even they collected the money from these people. They left them with nothing. Basically, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ was about to get involved, and I think Dr. Raghib could elaborate on this part. I hope so. The misconception could be cleared up.
Yes, it wasn't a retaliation, though.
It wasn't retaliation. The point is, the people who migrate from Mecca to Medina, the Muslims, they left everything behind unwillingly, and this caravan was holding a wealth of all Mecca. And where this wealth come from? It comes from part of it, or a lot of it, comes from the money of the Muslims who traveled from Mecca to Medina and left everything behind. And a lot of support story, maybe it will happen after, and we can talk about it, that one caravan has been caught by Muslim for a single person, which is Abu al-As, and that man has asked the Prophet ﷺ for his money back, and he asked the Sahaba to give it back to his companion. So because that was his money alone. But when Abu Sufyan was traveling, he was carrying with him money of Meccan people, meaning money, part of it, or main part of it, is money of Muslims.
So the main intention of Prophet Muhammad was to take back what is his.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or what the
Muslims. For the people, not literally his.
Not his, but his people.
For his people,
His
yes,
people
he stands for them, right?
Yes.
Exactly, yeah.
But something we want to mention before we get into the the Prophet of Allah ﷺ was so, we want to mention about him as a leader, as a scholar, also as a strategic planner.
Absolutely.
See, he planned this whole thing himself, through the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported him because he's the Prophet of Allah. He supported him with the army, the angels, and generally we want to talk about his strategy. We're talking about like 300 people facing the Meccans in a battle that had only 2 horses versus 100 horses, like knights.
Yeah, but no, actually, what I was talking about on the way going from Mecca to Medina, from Mecca to Syria, through Badur, the Prophet took only 100 persons with him.
150.
150
Surah, if I'm not mistaken.
The first Badr.
What do they call it? Syria?
Well, they call it a group of, what do they call it?
Syria, a platoon or something like that.
Yeah, it's a small part of the army, but it wasn't to have a battle, it was just to take the money of these people, as we explained earlier. But Abu Sufyan is a trade person and he's clever, so he knew through agency, through intelligence, that the Prophet ﷺ is coming. And that's why he changed the route and went somewhere else. Using a different route. He went to Syria using a different route.
No, basically just adjacent to there. I mean, it was just passing around the mountains here.
Exactly.
We were not too far away.
It's a different route.
10 kilometers away or 15
I think
kilometers.
he went through Yanbar. He was going next to the sea.
Yes.
So he was just passing parallel to the sea. And we are here, I think, 50 kilometers away from the sea.
So it's midway between here and Yanbar, let's
exactly.
say. That would be, I think,
Well, if that's the case, everything is safe. Abu Sufyan is on his merry way back to Mecca.
No, he was going actually up.
This was when he was going to.
He was going to
Syria.
On the way back, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to plan a better plan this time, because he knew that Abu Sufyan, knowing that he's waiting for him. So he went he also sent some intelligence to people, Muslim people, to look for him. And they saw him in Al-Hawra, a place called Hawra, is in the north of Medina. And they went back straight to Medina to tell the Prophet ﷺ that Abu Sufyan is coming back. But Abu Sufyan was clever as well. He saw somebody and said, "Have you seen any Muslim around, any stranger?" He said, "Yes, I've seen 2 boys, and these 2 boys, he doesn't know where they are from." But Abu Sufyan was clever, so he took the waist of the camels and he checked it, right? So he made an analysis of this too, and he found date stones in it. And he said, these date stones can only come from Medina. So they feed the camels with dates, and the date...
Were they going to be intercepted here in this area? That was the plan of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam?
No, he wanted these two people to check that he's coming back.
No, I'm talking about Prophet Muhammad's strategic plan that Dr. Yasser was talking about. Was it that he wanted to intercept Abu Sufyan's coming back?
And he take the money as well. It's the same strategy as he planned for when he was going up. So Abu Sufyan did the same trick as well. He changed the route. He hired somebody who was expert in the desert, and he changed the route. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ was waiting in Badr for him, but he changed the route. In the meantime, he sent to Quraysh somebody calling them for war. Said, "Your money."
Actually, basically, he was recalling for like backup. We were talking about. I mean, again, we want to just remark something. So Abu Sufyan, Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid, Sayyidina Hamza, some of these great people in the history of Islam, even though before they became Muslim, we talk about them being clever. See, they were one of the I mean, they were so brave, so clever, even through the tactics and strategies they were very strong. Even the Prophet of Allah ﷺ said to Sayyidina Khalid bin Walid that you were, even though you became Muslim, but you were so strong as a fighter. I mean, he remarked that. And I think we want to remark this, that Muslims generally gave us examples of warriors and being bright, having success, and art of war, and also the visions. These are people of vision who they had the thought how to escape from danger at one point or another. You're talking about, a big trade, a big caravan that's moving from the north to the south. And at the time, they didn't have machine guns or they didn't have any sort of protection. So basically, they were just taking their camels and, with their swords and going north.
And there, I guess, were only 40 men guarding the caravan.
Yes.
Right.
And we come to the point where, again, see the Meccans at the time, they started retaliating in the sense when they heard that there's a backup. Immediately the Meccans said, let's wage a war. And they were so proud.
That's my question to Dr. Walid when I was asking if everybody went on their merry way, the caravan is safe, the people are safe, okay? The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, according to my understanding, didn't go out to shed any blood. He was going to ask for what is rightfully for the people. Why would they come and wage a war when the person, which is Prophet Muhammad
and ignorance? That's the answer.
I think that this is like arrogance.
Yes.
You see, when they came to fight the Muslims in the Battle of Badr, they came with barrels of wine. They came with music and beats. They were beating music and they were dancing on the table and they were doing all sorts of things.
I wouldn't blame person if you drink alcohol. What prevents us from doing what we are not doing is our religion. Right. So if a non-Muslim drink alcohol, what is going to stop him? Or if he commit adultery or whatever, what will stop you from doing what Allah make it unlawful for you is your religion. But if you don't have a religion, what is the point of stopping doing what you are not supposed to do?
Let's get back to the battle.
Yeah, this is exactly because he said they bring the wine.
Right, they brought the wine,
yes.
They made a party, and I think they were really having fun, that we're going to crush the Muslims.
Sure.
We're going to crush Saddam Hussein.
This
is the way we were thinking.
Sure, but some of them were wise enough to warn. It was Abu Jahl who was supporting the idea of the war. He said, "Don't come back. People will eat our face." So
No, actually, there were those Meccans, the leaders and chiefs of Mecca, who were there in this arched out of Mecca, and they had like their son, they had their nephews, they had their cousins in the line of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Yeah.
So they were afraid to have a son to father battle. This is what they were afraid of. That's what the Muslims said. Let's go back to Mecca.
Listen to reason that I'm listening to all of you, giving me a lot of things that are true. People are coming here to party. People that are coming here out of arrogance and ignorance, as you told me. Yet, nobody was listening to reason, as if I'm living these days all over again.
They just had the history in the beginning. In the beginning, a companion who would become Muslim later was called Hakim al-Huzam. He was asking Abu Jahl, "Don't do it, right? There's no reason to go into war." As Dr. Yasser was saying, our our relatives are in Medina, we are fighting our children, we are fighting our fathers. But he did not listen. Because he wanted to get revenge from the Prophet ﷺ.
Yeah, that's where I mean, even the fear there was to the point. I mean, the first three who died on this battle were actually a father, his brother, and his son.
Exactly.
This is, I mean, these are like the first three: Utbah, Shayba, and Al-Walid.
Yeah.
And even the son of Utbah was there in the line. He was a Muslim. He was fighting the Prophet.
And actually, he saw his dad
die, his brother and his uncle.
Yeah.
And this was like, he grieved. Even Hind bint Utbah also grieved on her father, her brother. I mean, this is like a family thing. A father seeing his father and his brother and his uncle die in this battle. I mean, this was like really a turmoil. And I think the decision of Abu Jahl waging this war and continuing the ignorance.
Can we blame it? This is what I'm trying to say, Dr. Yasser. Can we really blame it on the Muslims that they went to this battle when in reality the battle was waged against them, if I understand you correctly?
Yes, it was. It was because of Abu Jahl and the little people who supported him, or the few people who were supporting him, this battle would not happen. Would not have happened.
So they listened to reason. In other words,
the reason was Hakim ibn Hizam and Al-Mughira, right? So these two were saying, oh, we already got our money back, so there's no reason to go forward and have the war. But Abu Jahl was making people making the fire by asking people to get revenge of what had been happened to them in the past.
well, what happened to him?
Well, him personally, I don't know, but he asked somebody whose brother was killed.
No, I'm saying Abu Jahl himself. What happened to him?
What happened to him at the end, during the war, he has been killed, and he was killed so victory that...
Sarcastically, I think.
Exactly.
By children.
By two young Muslims. Yeah, with one of them he cut his leg, and the other finished him off. And finally, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, when the Prophet ﷺ was asking him to look for who was killed and who didn't, who were killed and who didn't, he found him almost dying. So Abu Jahl was asking Ibn Mas'ud, who won? He said, us. And he put his feet on his neck, right? Because he was dying.
Yeah.
And he told him, يا رويعي الغنم ما كنت ترتقي هذا المرتقى. You are the shepherd or the goat.
Yeah, you just a goat herder.
The goat herder. You wouldn't dream of having
Stepping on my neck.
foot on my neck.
Right. Let's set the screen. I think this is where we should set the screen for the Battle of Badr, because this is, I think, something to every Muslim's heart. And when you hear the Battle of Badr, you feel this is the beginning of Islam. I think this is not the reason because it was war or anything, but the thing is that's where when Islam was taken into the test of power, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala supported Islam through this Battle of Badr. Actually, the kuffar, again, as I support the idea where they came to protect the caravans, even though the caravans were already been protected and they were safe, their arrogance and their, I think, use of less, I mean, they wanted to punish the Muslims. And that's how they thought that they could overpower Islam.
They were blinded.
Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, that reminds me that he raised his hand to Allah Almighty, according to my humble knowledge, and he asked Allah Almighty for victory. And the gist of what he was saying, that if this mob or this group of people, meaning the Muslims, are wiped off, he will never be worshipped again, O Allah. Because that's what the intention, right? When you said they were partying.
Just before we go to this point, prior